Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.
I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Neenah Common Council for Wednesday, January 17, 2018. The first item is the roll call. The clerk will call the roll and members will acknowledge and punch in on the roll call machine as your name is called, please. Thank you.
Alderman Boyette.
Here.
Bates.
Here.
Hillstrom.
Here.
Lendrum.
Here.
Erickson. Lang.
Here.
Olno.
Here.
Coons.
Here.
Stevenson.
Here.
Kathy.
Bottom.
We have 8 members present. Alderman Erickson is excused absent. She had a little, I ran into her before the meeting, has a family thing that came up and may make it, but with one of her animals. I keep her in her thoughts tonight because it looked like a tough time for her family. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Alderman Paulno.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item we'll have tonight, it's going to just be a 5-minute update. I had changed the agenda on Monday. Some things have come up, and I felt that it was important to get a short update and a presentation by Director Kading with regards to the Loop the Lake project. Things are going well. Those of you who've seen pictures of it or driven by it, you can tell that it's really coming along. We've been recently, just very recently, I believe it was Friday, Pfeiffer Brothers Construction has asked us to consider a couple things. So I wanted to bring Director Kading in to give us an update on the project as a whole and some other little tidbits. Director Kading.
Thank you for that introduction. All right. Again, brief update, and then we'll just talk about the potential of a canopy covering over the observation deck. Got a picture up. I just thought pictures speak 1,000 words in my brain cell. But the 4 H piles here are for the north abutment. And if you look out over the lake, the piles have been driven for the final pier that's in the water. There's 11 total piers that are being installed across Little Lake Butamore, and this is the 11th pier that is being installed. In the meantime, since the snow event, this has actually been formed and ready for concrete, which will occur either tomorrow or Friday as the weather warms up and weather permits. So it's moving right along. Steel girders, the steel beams are coming every Thursday. They're being delivered to the south side of the bridge, moved into place, and they're now in place through the 6th pier. So they're halfway across the bridge, the new bridge with the steel girders. The underdecking, and that's the wood structure, and I don't have a good picture of that right here for you today, but that's the subdecking is which the composite the decking that you'll actually ride or walk on has been installed, and that's completed through the 4th pier. Pfeiffer is installing that not as a filler, but that's kind of their catch-up point. If they've got a down day, they go back and they move those pieces into place. Finished decking is actually on site, has been delivered. As the temperatures warm and it becomes feasible to install the actual finishing decking will be installed here within, it won't be, it'll take a good month, 6 weeks to complete that process. But that will happen really shortly, and then you'll actually start to see a full decking. Pfeiffer has every intentions of starting to pull the tramway, which is where the crane is sitting in the picture. They want to start peeling that back within the month. They want to have most of it out of the water by March 1st, then alleviating any thoughts from the DNR regarding fishing requirements. So they're very happy to see that happening. Overall, the project has gone very well. Oops. Thank you. Very, very happy. Out of all the piles that have been driven, only one that was drilled on the 9th pier did we experience any trouble with, but they set the pile in and it drove in just as well. So out of all the piers that you see out there, only one caused us a little bit of concern, and everything else has gone very well, which once you get above water line, I think the project is much simpler and easier to see and handle. I got to say hats off to Pfeiffer. These guys have come in. There were some extremely cold days over the last couple weeks, and they were out there working. So if you know of any of the guys or gals that are working on this project, pat them on the back. Even today, being out in the middle of the lake, it was cold. Even though it was 21, 23 degrees with the wind howling, it was a pretty cold adventure out there today. Brings me to the next subject. As Mayor Crawford indicated on Friday, we received information regarding a canopy pier structure. This is actually a picture taken of the current one that is out on the original trestle trail. Some of you might recall when Mike Pfeiffer was in to talk about the lining, he mentioned a canopy structure, and since that time we've been trying to work towards getting some sort of cost estimate on what that might look like. That's what it looks like on the original trestle. The proposal would be to, I know I'm high-tech today, so pardon me. The proposal would be to cover both the trail and the observation pier with one structure, covering the span of the complete decking out over the observation pier. You might ask, why are we going to such great extents to cover both? If from just a purely engineering standpoint, that's what has to happen. Unfortunately, this wasn't part of the original base bid and had been figured in from an engineering perspective. If it had, I mean, it would be a whole lot easier to make that decision, should we or shouldn't we. So it's a little bit of a backtracking. So today we do have a construction cost estimate for that. What I ask, as Mayor Crawford and I were talking, is really take it in. We're not looking for any decisions or directions tonight, but that if you could, within the next day or two, please indicate whether you would be in favor of doing the canopy over the fishing observation platform and the trail. As you see, the dollar amount there is $51,060. It's not a cheap adventure, and again, I would ask that you would contact the mayor individually, indicate if you're interested in going forward with this so that Public Works can deal with this change order.
Now, let me explain two things. Number one, Mike, keep that on there for a second.
Yeah, you betcha.
That 102,000 is for, they would do two, one in Neenah and one in Menasha, and that's why divided by two. So the structure in Neenah, Pfeiffer estimates they could do this for $51,000. This is grant eligible, so that would pay for about $25,500. So we're just pointing this out to you now. And he wanted, as long as he was giving you an update on the project, this came in. The reason, and we can't take any votes or anything, it's not on the agenda. We want to make you aware of this. Change orders are a responsibility of the Board of Public Works. The Board of Public Works can make change orders. But I believe it's necessary that if any individual alderman, wants to look at this further or wants to discuss this, they should have the opportunity. Of course, Pfeiffer tells us they need to know fairly soon if we'd like to move forward on this or not. Is that fair, Mike?
That is fair. I would also like to point out that the current balance in the contingency fund, including the action item on the agenda for tonight, is $66,000. Just making you that aware. That's just information.
So with that, we just wanted to give an update on it. We wanted to talk about this that we recently found out on Friday, and we'll take a question or two. Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, Mike, I remember when I saw the width of the loop, the trail at that point was 14 foot wide, and I think I saw it was 8 foot long.
That's 8 foot wide, so it's 8 foot plus 14 feet. For
Yeah, how long would that be?
That picture.
it's approximately 22 feet long as well. Let me just
14 foot wide, 22 foot long.
You had a picture.
Nope. I'm trying to get back to that one. Of course, can't find it. There it is.
There you go.
22 feet across. Structurally wise, when you start to put the posts outside of the trail and the observation deck, it ends up being like 23, and then it's about 24 feet long.
24 by 22.
It's almost a square.
Other questions? Alderman Lundrum?
Thank you, Mayor. Can you send that to us?
I certainly can.
Through email? Thank you.
Alderman Coons?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a clarifying question. So roughly $100,000, the two of them, we're looking at one, so roughly 50, and then we're also talking about a 50% match from the state. So our cost at the end of the project would be $25,000
We would have to pay the entire $51,000 and get reimbursed $25,000.
Okay, thank you.
So I know Jim probably doesn't want to get too far into this. Yeah, I can feel it, and but I think questions are allowable, and we just wanted to give a short update on the entire project. So timing was good. Alderman Boyette.
Thank you. Directories or Kading, sorry. With that, those pictures you're going to send us, could you send us the details? Because I'd like to know. I mean, you gave us the measurement of the structure, but I'd like to know what that gives us for width of the trail then.
And I apologize because Mike sent me the electronic version, and I thought I forwarded it on to everyone on Monday, but maybe I didn't push the button or something, so I'll look. So I have it. I just might not have sent it on to like I meant to.
I don't want to get into complete design details. If you look right here, these are the outside posts. So the inside measurement is still 14 feet for the trail and 8 feet for the observation area. So we have to. That's why when I said it in rough estimates, you're outside. Those posts have to land outside on steel girders outside of the trail and the observation.
But then there's like that little diagram of a box or something. And again, I don't want to take up a lot of time. So if you could just send those like specific details.
The box is the fishing thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Right.
That'd
It
be
is.
great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll send you the rest of the information. And like I said, change orders, Jim, are responsibility of the Board of Public Works, correct? So, but I wanted the council to have the ability to weigh in before a decision was made to put this on a Board of Public Works agenda. Okay? All right, so thank you, Director Kading. And yeah, I mean, if you think about it, when you go out there, if you get the opportunity to go look at it, and that it's pretty. I've been out there on some really, really cold days, and those Pfeiffer brothers, those construction guys, have been out there, and it's like a wind tunnel down that river. You know, the wind just comes howling through there. So there were some cold days. So they're doing a good job. They're kind of ahead of schedule, or right on schedule, or ahead of schedule a little bit, and it's going well. So we appreciate it. Item number 2 is introduction and confirmation of some mayor's appointments. Item number A is Mayor Crawford's appointment of Sandy White to fill the expired term of Tina Palmer on the bid board. This term will expire December 2020.
Move to confirm the mayor's appointment.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to confirm the appointment of Sandy White. on the bid board. I do not believe Sandy's here tonight. So you all received her appointment thing that she filled out. The bid board and future Neenah themselves are the ones that recommend to me candidates for these positions. So all in favor of the appointment will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 8-0. Mayor Crawford's reappointment of Ken Bonkowski to the Board of Appeals. This term will expire January 2021. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the appointment?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the reappointment of Ken Bonkowski to the Board of Appeals. Is there any questions? Discussion. Being none, all in favor of that motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. That motion passes 8-0. Item number C is Mayor Crawford's appointment of Greg Weinberg to fill the unexpired term of Tim Hamlin on the Neenah Menasha Sewage Commission. This term will expire December 2019. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the mayor's appointment.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the appointment of Greg Weinberg to fill the term of Tim Hamlin. Greg, I know, is with us tonight. Greg, would you like to just come up, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yours? More than you and Todd talk about at the Y?
Well, we can say a little bit more tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Mayor asked me if I would consider this appointment, and I said that I certainly would, or this position. As far as background, you've got my sheet that I filled out for you. I was a member of this council quite a few years ago. Served on finance and public works at that time, and personnel and salary review, and also the Harbor Commission. Also, not that I have a great background with sewage commissions, but I did serve as the president of a condo association in Fish Creek, which had some dealings with the Fish Creek Sanitary District, so I know a little bit about it. But I spent really much of my life representing people. For 32 years, I represented mainly teachers with the American Federation of Teachers. So, you know, I'm willing to take on this assignment if that's something that this body wants me to do. And other than that, I don't know what else to say. I think that's about it.
We appreciate it. Most important thing is that our toilets flush. And,
Every time.
But,
All for that.
but no, Greg is, I will tell you this, Greg, I think is an excellent choice. And I've known Greg a long time, and I know some of us on this council have. He's former council member, so I think he understands the role of protecting the citizens of Neenah with regards to this appointment. He'll be working with Forrest Bates on this, and there are two appointees to this governing body. And it's an important role because a lot of money spent by municipality to perform this service for us. So we appreciate, Greg, your willingness to volunteer. So thank you very much.
Just one last thing. I noticed that this is filling an appointment for Tim Hamlin. Not that I'll be able to fill his shoes, but a good thing is that I see Tim about once a week, so he'll be able to give me some advice if need be.
Good, thank you. And you'll be sworn in right after the vote. So, okay. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor of the appointment of Greg Weinberg will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 8-0. And our clerk Sturm will go down and conduct the swearing in. You got to come up to the podium one more time, Greg.
Behind the podium. Yep, and I'm going to move the mic over because Mike moved it on us. Okay, if you'll raise your right hand. I, Greg Weinberg,
I, Greg Weinberg,
having been appointed to the Neenah Menasha Sewage Commission
having been appointed to the Neenah Menasha Sewage Commission
of the City of Neenah,
of the City of Neenah,
Winnebago County,
Winnebago County,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of a Neenah Menasha Sewage Commissioner
of a Neenah Menasha Sewage Commissioner
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, once again, Greg, thank you very much for your willingness to serve, and as this council has heard me many times, just so that members of the community who watch this broadcast know that these opportunities are out there for anyone, and if you are interested in volunteering on one of the many committees that we have, just go to the city's website, look under appointments, and there's a whole list of committees. Fill out the application blank and get it to the city clerk, and if opening occurs, that's what I use to find people who have a willingness to serve. So the commitment's about usually once a month to serve on a committee, so it's not overbearing commitment, but it's really appreciated that we get citizens involved and willing to share their time and talents to make this community better. So thank you very much, and congratulations, Greg. Item number 3, approval of the council proceedings of December 20th, 2017 regular session.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Alderman Palmer moves, seconded by Alderman Lundrum, to approve the council proceedings of December 20th, 2017. Is there any discussion, corrections, additions? Seeing none, all in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 8-0. There are no public hearings. There are no plan commission reports. Is there a motion to amend the agenda?
I'll move to amend the agenda to read out special finance personnel committee meeting that happened earlier today.
Sorry.
Alderman Stevenson moves, seconded. You got to redo.
Just delete mine.
We don't do these types of votes on the system.
Okay. Alderman
So just-
Stevenson moves, seconded by Alderman Lundrum, to amend the agenda to report out now item number 9, parent B, parent 1, from the Special Finance Personnel Committee meeting that happened prior to this meeting tonight, to the business that was on that agenda. Is there a motion to take that item up at this time? There is a motion. All in favor of that will signify by saying aye. Oh, Alderman Paulno?
Just a couple questions on process. We have this listed on the amendment agenda that we need a motion, but it's already listed on the agenda, so I don't know what we're actually amending. That's first thing. Second thing, just as a process thing, should we not allow public forum? I think we're about to borrow $8.295 million, and we haven't allowed a public forum option. So I would feel more comfortable if we had the public forum, first. Because, that's the public way, and we have 2 aldermanic candidates here who might have input, maybe not, but give them a chance to speak, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, it is also on the agenda. I saw that earlier today, but
The rules of order of the council say that the agenda goes in a certain order. So whenever we want to move up an agenda item, we have to make that motion. And I just put a little note on the agenda so that we can decide if we want to do it or not. The motion has not been made to amend the agenda.
Okay, well, the motion on the table, and that's fair,
Yes.
that's fine,
Okay.
it's just confusing, I didn't
it was the
understand.
next agenda item up, is what you're saying.
Yeah, as you read it, it's already there, so
Okay.
it's
But then
confusing.
the-
I understand your point.
The other people, after they hear this item, may have something to comment on that as well. So maybe not moving the public forum up would
Well, we had, the way it's listed here, if we make this motion, we're going to vote on it, and then we have the public forum. So they won't have an opportunity to speak or weigh in first, to allow the council to hear them.
Okay. The public did have an opportunity at the committee level, but I hear
True.
your point. So,
True.
No, I hear your point. If, Alderman Stevenson, would you like to withdraw your motion so we can do it a different motion? If Alderman Paulner
I
would
move
like.
to amend my motion to take this item up after the public.
Okay. Alderman Stevenson moves to amend his motion to take this item up after we do the public forum. Second is Carrie? Kathy? Okay, Carrie Lundrum.
Seconded the amendment.
Carrie Lundrum. So,
To avoid more confusion, we'll just treat that as the main motion.
okay,
Following Robert's rule.
yep. We will consider that a friendly amendment, as long as the second is okay. Consider a friendly amendment, and that will become the main motion. So we will, we will take up the public forum and then this Special Finance Personnel Committee meeting item. All in favor of that will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That's so ordered. That brings us to item number 6, the public forum. Public forum is an opportunity for anyone in the community to address the council on any topic that they would like. All we ask is that you give your name and address solely just for the record, and that you keep your comments under 5 minutes. So is there anyone here who would like to address the common council on any item? Welcome.
Brian, 686 Oak Street, Brian Defferting. I had a question in regards to the recent Public Services and Safety Committee meeting, specifically in regards to Arrowhead Park, and perhaps Director Kading can help me with these questions. As far as I was concerned, and perhaps I am wrong on this, and this is why I'm here, because I need to want to find out if it seemed to be that there was already a design for Arrowhead Park. Of course, the name Arrowhead is still not yet to be decided, but as far as I'm concerned, there was a design picked. But it seems to be that they're spending $75,000 for what is considered to be just simply a design. That not just a design, but 60% of a design. So it could be that we're spending $75,000 for something that we may change our mind on later. Perhaps maybe I am misunderstanding this issue, and so that's why I'm here to ask these questions, because it just seems to me that spending $75,000 just for a design seems a little high. Wanted to know if anyone here could help me understand this.
Right after the public forum, Brian, we have what we call the mayor-council consideration of these public forum issues. So at the end of the public forum, then the council will, any council member or staff member will have the opportunity to answer your questions. Is that okay?
Okay. And I have one other thing that I'd like to bring up. It was also noted in kind of a by-the-way fashion at the end of that meeting that there was, in order to comply with the American Disabilities Act, that we'd have to close caption all these meetings for public access, and the cost was estimated $2 a minute. And that also seemed, I wanted to find out how that cost came about, if that was set out to bid anywhere, where we're bidding it to. Wanted to find that out as well. Should I reserve that as well for later on?
I just wrote it down, and
Okay.
we'll address that next.
Okay, that is all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to address the council? Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Danae Steele, and I just want to introduce myself. I'm running for alderperson from the 1st District, and I look forward to what is obviously a big learning curve, but I'm excited for the campaign and also for just learning more about the City of Neenah operations and hopefully working with most of you. So. I guess a little bit about myself. I have lived in Neenah for 5 years. Before that, I was in Green Bay for 6 years. And before that, I was moved here from Washington State. I have a spouse and I have a 9-year-old daughter. I'm way too old to have a 9-year-old daughter, but she's adopted and she's here to stay. I also have adult children and a bunch of grandchildren, but they all live farther away. I'm a physician in private practice. I am a subspecialist in high-risk pregnancy. Hopefully that means you or your children or your grandchildren will never have the opportunity to see me. But if they need to see me, I'm happy to help out. So anyway, thank you very much for allowing me to introduce myself, and I'll probably be talking to all of you later. So some of you I've already met and spoken to, but I'll be talking to more of you later, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else who would like to address the council on any topic? Anyone else? All right, seeing no one, we will then move on to the Mayor Council consideration of public forum issues. Is there anyone who would like to address any of the issues specifically from the council? Director Kading, would you, are you able to answer how you understand the action with regards to the design, the $75,000 that will be taken up?
So there's the conceptual master plan, and that process was started in August 2016 and concluded itself in January of 2017. From that, a general budget was made, and during the 2017 CIP process, if you recall, 1.8 was requested for the 2018 budget, 2.0 was requested for the 2019 budget, and $2.0 million was requested for the 2020 budget. When we came around to the 2018 budget cycle this last fall, the request was shifted to include $400,000 for design and planning purposes in 2018, with 1.4 being shifted to 2019, and everything, the $2 million for each subsequent year or years to follow was shifted backwards to 20 and then back to 21. So in regards to a conceptual master plan, that's a general overview. It gives you a general idea, it gives you a general direction of where we're proposing to go. The plan or the proposals that are on the floor or before you tonight are for 60% general engineering plans. In 2017, we're trying to wrap up right now the Railroad and Millview Drive conceptual planning processes. We're also developing the temporary drainage and grading game plan as well. So moving into 2018, the game plan is to develop conceptual designs, or not conceptual, to get to a 60% design process so that we actually have designs, we have engineering, and we have much better construction cost estimates for all of us to make much better decisions. The game plan is to have that completed in April. There are some May 1st grant application deadlines that we'd like to hit if we want to continue to move forward with this. But our game plan is to put forth these 3 items. One is delayed, got postponed in Park and Recreation Commission, where we'll take that up on Thursday night, and then we'll bring that forth for the Public Services and Safety, and then again for the Common Council on February 7th if it makes it through. So hopefully that's kind of a general, very brief overview of the journey that we've been on thus far. There's a lot more deeper puzzles to that, or pieces to that puzzle.
All right, Director Kading, I'll just have you stay up there just for a minute. Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that going along with the discussions that Mr. Defferding had heard about is, as chairman of the committee, I did sense that there was some questions about procedure. What steps do we take? What steps does the park take? Where do we stand? 10,000-foot view, and then maybe getting closer to see, maybe a 200-foot view. I know we can't get down to ground level, but we can kind of see the process. What steps have to take place? What are we involved with? Where do we make our decisions? And it doesn't just happen. We know what's going to happen. So when I got to that part, I was planning on requesting from President Stevenson to have a committee of the whole for Mike to just give us maybe a half hour before council and just show us what steps are coming up and explain to us what a 60% gets us. It doesn't lock us in, but you have to do something before a deadline.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Alderman Paulno.
Yeah, to address Mr. Deffering's question as far as how this process works. I know there's been a lot of discussion relative outside of before council with a lot of planning, a lot of workshops, and a lot of good work put in with this the Arrowhead Park project. But it's my concern as well as far as council. You know, on most projects, not even half of this scope, we get some kind of presentation, guidelines, PowerPoints, some nature. I don't remember one iota of information coming in front of us explaining what exactly we're planning there and why. I know we in committee, you know, in CIP, we have $5.8 million approved over the next 3 years. And then there was outliers there was referenced up to 20 million in the fourth year, which funding source to be determined. So I think it's very prudent what Alderman Bates had said, which I think I would hope would have started before we have something to vote on for 75,000, because I have really no concept of what our long range plan is, and I think that's kind of concerning. So thank you for bringing that up, and hopefully we'll learn more. But I'm concerned as well.
All right. Thank you, Mike. You can sit down. Mr. Defferting, I'm just going to give you a chance. Do you have a follow-up question or anything, or from what you've heard, or are you okay for tonight?
Okay.
Okay, good. And as Alderman Bates points out, there will be if Alderman Stevenson concurs, there will be what's called a committee of the whole, where the council will meet as a committee of the whole to hear more information on this, okay? All right. Thank you for your questions.
Mayor? And just to let you know that Mike Kading did come to me and phone me and suggested the same thing. So he understands that he wants to get the information out.
Okay, thank you. And then with regards to the second question that you had with regards to the closed captioning, at the end of the Public Service Safety meeting, I had mentioned this to the committee just to make them aware of a recent email that we had received from UW-Fox or the Green Bay Public Access Channel that kind of runs our public access channel. I mentioned a $2 a minute because that was an estimate that I was given at the time, but we have kind of further investigated, and Deputy or Clerk Stern has found out it's closer to $1 a minute to do closed captioning. So we have an estimate from UW-Fox or someone, I don't know who it's from, about $1 a minute. Is that correct?
Yes. UW-Fox is recommending a website called Rev, R-E-V, and they do charge the $1 an hour. Then there will be $1 a minute, and then there will be an additional charge from UW-Fox to encode that after they get the tape back.
So
that is unknown at this time, that cost.
So that specifically answers your question. At the end of the meeting that I had under other unfinished business, I'm going to expound on this a little bit more for the council, okay? Because we're still finding things out. This is kind of a moving target from the access channel, the people that run the access channel. So thank you. All right. Seeing no other comments by anyone, I would like to move on to item number 8, the consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to
Oh, I'm
approve.
sorry. Never mind. I'm sorry, Alderman Stevens. Well, no, we have to go back to item number 9 based upon the motion. Item number 9 is a report of a standing committee, the Special Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of January 17, 2018. Is there a motion? We have to have the report first. Okay. The Alderman Paulno, can you report that meeting out? Thank you.
Yes, Special Finance Committee meeting of tonight. The committee recommends the approval of resolution number 2018-03, providing for the sale of $8.295 million in general obligation promissory notes, and I would so move.
Second. There's a motion by Alderman Paulno, seconded by Alderman Stevenson. We have Brad Viget here from Baird. We also have the Finance Director. Is there any comments or questions at this time? Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, I just want to be clear, this isn't the authorization of the sale. This is the authorization to provide preparation work in preparation of the sale expected on March 1st.
Expected on February 7th.
7th, okay.
Anyone else? All right, with that explanation, there's been a motion and a second regarding resolution number 2018-03. All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 8-0. Now we will move on to item number 8, which is the consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Paulno, seconded by Alderman Lundrum to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor will vote aye, all opposed will vote no. That motion passes 8-0. Item number 9 is reports of the standing committees. Regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of January 9, 2018. Chairperson Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. The minutes can be found on the city website. Committee recommends council authorize appropriate staff to execute necessary documents with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation to install downtown Neenah signs at the I-41 Main Street interchange and to provide $2,000 from the Community Development Redevelopment Fund CDGB grants towards the acquisition, with remaining funding to be provided by the Downtown Neenah Business Improvement District, which we know as the BID, and I will so move.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Lundrum. Comments or discussion? Alderman Bates.
This was one of those situations where it just seems natural. I mean, I was thinking about it, and you always think that the city always has something like this, and I guess we don't. I'm not sure if we used to have it when we had more exits onto I-41 or not, but it just seems like it's the thing to do.
Okay. Alderman Paulno.
Just for clarification, the agenda reads out the $2,000 is from the Community Development Redevelopment Fund. Now, I heard it read out as Community Development Block Grant dollars. So, which funding source is this, so I'm clear? Is it block grant dollars, or is it the redevelopment fund?
It's the redevelopment fund.
My mistake.
Redevelopment fund.
Okay. What exactly is the redevelopment fund, and what is the balance after? What would it be after this expenditure? Because I don't remember. Is that a levy expense, or levy fund, or a capital fund?
The redevelopment fund predates me in the director's role. I believe it was dollars that had been accumulated for a number of different reasons, and I really don't know the history completely. We did utilize funds from that fund to help with the comprehensive plan. I believe we had dollars in excess of what was necessary. So I believe, I don't have an exact figure, but it's about $6,000. So with this, that fund would be drawn down to about $4,000.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that fundage was identified a while back in a workshop. It wasn't listed in the budget book, but it was in the audit. Is that correct, Director Easker?
Correct, and it has been listed now in the budget book for probably the past 3 years. This is not, but again, we didn't anticipate this as a budgeted item in November, but that's why the action to approve the funding source is there as well. But yeah, as Director Hayes said, I think that amount of money, there was about $32,000 there at one time. It's also used by Director Hayes as a sort of as an in-out fund for many of the environmental grant issues that are happening at the community development level as well. So there's kind of a running total in there, but as he said, once the dust clears, there's about $6,000 left in that fund.
Yeah, I remember this fund because I remember a couple of 3 years ago, I didn't know it. We used it for that study. So that's good. If there's 6,000 in, how much did they apply for? Meaning, did they give us hey, we want X amount, or?
it was actually a request from the mayor to assist them. I think the mayor might have more history on that, but I think their level, I don't know that there was an expectation for a higher level. I think they were just asking for us to participate at some level, given the significance of the sign to Neenah.
If I may, just quick history. The first correspondence was in 1998, where the downtown business district, future Neenah, had talked to the state of Wisconsin about doing this. I was in the legislature at that time, and I got a piece of correspondence that they were interested in that. It's taken a long time. I usually attend all the future Neenah meetings just as an ex officio member, as mayor, and it was continually coming up. So they worked with Senator Roth's office and Mike Rurkas. The one impediment that they had is they had to raise the cost of the sign. The state of Wisconsin some years ago changed the rules. They had to come up with about $17,000. They fundraised for those dollars. They didn't know where they were going to be. They asked me if I would consider putting something in the budget, or if the council would consider partnering with them on this sign. I asked them at what level, and they said any level that we could do. They thought they could raise about $15,000. So I spoke with Director Hayes and asked if we could participate at a level in the $2,000 range. They liked that idea, and that's why we're here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the question. Anyone else? They are very excited about this. The downtown merchants and future Neenah, the bid district. I think the business owners as a whole are very excited about this sign directing people to get off the highway and go to downtown Neenah. And these signs will be on both sides of the Main Street exit. And so we get them off, but we don't let them back on Main Street. So, but they are excited about it, I can tell you that. So they are excited, and they're appreciative of us doing this. So, okay?
Oh, wait.
Alderman Coons?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take the opportunity to say a thank you and congratulations, I guess, to both the future Neenah and the bid. I know they've been working on this a long time, as you said. This is great for Neenah, and we have someone else who's helping to fund this, and we're helping out a small bit. And I think it's a great piece. So it's another opportunity, another chance that shows that we have a lot of people working to make improvements to the city from a variety of different sources. This is another one that just, I guess, a big thank you.
Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. One thing we did discuss at the committee was we would take on responsibility for this sign. So if in 20 years it needs to be resilvered or whatever they do, that would be our job. The other thing is if it gets harmed in some way, we have the option of not having to put it back up. So if we discover it's in a really bad place and it's pushed down a lot.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And thank you. There were donors who contributed to this effort by Future Neenah, so we appreciate their involvement. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 8-0.
The committee recommends the council adopt ordinance 2018-01 UTV on public property prohibited and exceptions, and I would so move. See.
There's a motion to adopt ordinance 2018-01, seconded by
Trying.
Alderman Lundrum. Any discussion? Being Alderman Pono?
Yeah, Chief, I guess I would, if you could come forward and maybe your secret coworker that's sitting to your right, whoever you assign, to come explain the necessity for this ordinance change, the reasoning. I think that was.
Under state statute, there are specific state statutes that guide the use of all-terrain vehicles and urban terrain vehicles. And so the statutes from the Department of Transportation. Their rules govern everything on the highway. So that part is already covered. It's the part on the private property, on the city property, the parks and the sidewalks, that's within our control as a municipality. And as it was, our ordinance prohibited the use of any of those vehicles on park property. So if we would have used it, if we would have used the vehicle that was donated to us on park property, we would have been in violation of our own ordinance. That's what started the whole thing.
Just so I'm clear, then this has nothing to do with private property at all?
Correct. Private property is, you can operate a UTV or an ATV on the property, on private property with permission of that property owner.
Okay, and that's how it's always been. One question, did this go through the Park and Rec Commission? I mean,
it did not.
It
came through Public Services.
Just process-wise, is this something that should run through them? I mean, they're typically that's what I would hear is it's been through Park and Rec, and it's my understanding that the parks, once they're, it's under their realm, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. It could be referred back to Park and Rec for review if the council wishes. It was a relatively non-controversial matter, and frankly, TVs have been used during Community Fest, but I didn't see the objection. So, but if Alderman wishes to refer to Park and Rec, that would be appropriate.
The Park and Rec Department in that has allowed these vehicles at certain events and use them. So because it was non-controversial, we didn't. But it's a good question, but I don't think,
it's
we
just a
have
process
to, but if
thing.
someone would like to.
Typically, when it's something with the Park and Rec, I'm fine with it as it is, if they're not saying anything. Because we got two members here. If they wanted to weigh in, they could.
Anyone see the need for that? I don't see anyone at this point, Bill. Is that okay?
No, that's cool.
I know you're. Good question. This one of the things this will also do will say that emergency vehicles are allowed to do this. Correct? It will exempt emergency vehicles such as yours. The fire department has a UTV. So, or do they already have that exemption?
It doesn't identify it as emergency or not. I believe the ordinance language just says owned by the city, owned or operated by the city.
But quite frankly, I mean, the reality is we've had, the fire department has had a UTV for some time. If an emergency happens in one of our parks or our Loop the Lake area or Arrowhead Park, we're going to use that piece of equipment, whether it's allowed or not. This just clarifies that these types of vehicles can use those, be driven on those properties. Alderman Boyette.
Yes, I have a question, because this is very vague. I'm reading the ordinance, Section 1 under A, restricted. Basically, it says no person shall operate the off-road vehicle on public property. I have one, I put a snowplow on, and we do our sidewalks in our neighborhood from corner to corner. Am I going to be against the law doing this?
Many people do. I defer to Jim on the responsibility of.
Because my neighbors are not going to be happy.
That would be, in terms of enforcement on something like that, it would be pressure, like the ticket.
But the way this is written, I would be in violation of the ordinance for plowing the sidewalk.
Yes. If you're using a UTV, if you're using a...
Yeah, we have a four-wheeler, we put
We're
a plow
using an
on it, and we
ATV.
go corner to corner and plow the whole block. Our neighbors don't have to. Yeah.
I was just counseled that there may be an exception to snowplowing activities, and I'm sure that applies on streets. I'm ambiguous as to whether it applies to sidewalks or not, but we can certainly research
We
that.
don't use the street, we got the city for that, we do the
Right.
sidewalks.
But there is some language that is specific to snowplows, so I can look that up for you.
Is it in, but will it be put in this ordinance then, or?
That wouldn't be in the ordinance, that would be in
It's
state
in state law.
statutes, in controlling state statutes.
Okay.
If the council wishes to defer this to later in the meeting, I can check the statutes online right now.
Sure, I would like that. Because that's going to determine my vote.
All right, Jim will look at it. Alderman Bates, we want to move on to the next issue?
Well, I was just going to quick say that if we don't pass the ordinance, she still is in violation unless the snowplow thing is, because this is easing up on what's in state statutes, not doing more. State statute. I'll go into the second item while Jim's looking
Jim
at
will,
that.
I'll tell you what, Jim is going to look it up. We will move on to the next item, then we'll come back. Jim, do we have to temporarily lay that motion on the table or not?
It'd be appropriate to move to table that temporarily.
Motion to table?
There's a motion to temporary delay by tabling that motion till at a later time in the meeting. There's a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
That's so ordered. Jim will look into that while we're meeting here. Next item.
A committee recommends council approve the agreement for professional services from SEH for preliminary design and opinion of probable costs of Millview Drive and the Park Carriage Road in the amount of $75,000, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Coons. Discussion or questions? Alderman Palmo.
Yeah, as I stated earlier, this is a big entity we're starting, and I know there's been a lot of private workshops or public workshops and a lot of work done. I just think that this is a big entity we're undertaking. I mean, we have a $75,000 expenditure, plus on Park and Rec Commission meeting tomorrow, there's a professional services preliminary design proposal. I don't know how that fits into the equation. It's a big entity. And then there's also been discussion by Chairman Bates herself relative to having committee of the whole ask, and kind of give us an overview. So it just seems prudent. I mean, I agree, a committee of the whole to present this maybe more in a 50,000-foot viewpoint, kind of what the roadmap is, would be in order. I mean, I think done that with a lot of big ticket items, and this is definitely a big ticket item, big component to the downtown. I think it could have a lot of traction, but I think we should do it the right way. So I'll hear other discussion, but I think I would be interested to see what the council's opinion is about tabling this until we have that committee of the whole, or have that maybe 50,000-foot viewpoint, so we can have some pieces displayed to us of how it's all going to fit together. Because at budget time, it's been referenced, there was a $1.8 million approval, and then that was deferred to 2019. A lot of it was contingent on grant dollars being allocated and or applied for and or approved. I don't even know where that really is. I know there's been a lot of talk of it. I don't know if we got it in hand. So I just think collectively we should get that presented to us so we can have the best foot forward. I'd be curious to see if there's other that have that same feeling.
Alderman Boyette.
I just have a comment on what Alderman Palmo suggested, and a question, actually. When were we going to do that committee of the whole? I thought I understood it was going to be before the next council meeting. If that's the case, are we still within the grant deadline? We can do that? Because my understanding, we're going to run out of time for that money then if we pass this on. Just curious.
I don't know of any time constraints with grant dollars.
Mike, is there any time constraints, or what's your understanding?
Stewardship grant applications will come due May 1st. So that's, while we're sitting here in February or end of January, that may seem like there's a lot of time. That'll have to be done if we want to apply for those dollars. There's other dollars that we'd like to go after. We really do not want to do that until such time as we have some clarification after 60% design work. Are we comfortable with that? Do we have a good number to submit for grant proposals as well? So we've got to do this to get to that, and there's a whole bunch of sequences in each one of these steps, and we're trying to get to there. I realize it's a bit confusing, but I'd be glad to help clarify that.
So I'm confused. Do we have time?
Well, I mean, by delaying it, we're already at the end of January. Now you're pushing into February. We would just have to ask our engineers to work faster. in order to put things together, we'll need to have this completed by around May 1st so that we can actually put grant applications together for that May 1st deadline. It just puts us back a little bit.
And Palma, you have anything?
Yep. Director Kading, question for you. Then big picture wise, a lot of our big items, big projects, we typically, we have a informational session for council, maybe committee of the whole of this, I think is warranted. Have you had any discussions with Council President Stevenson or the mayor about coming to the council as a group and giving us basically a broad picture outline?
Well, I'll own that. I was clearly under the impression that the Park and Recreation Commission owned the responsibility of completing the conceptual master plan, which was adopted in January of 2017. Then through the budgetary process, we identified those costs, that 5.8 that you referenced earlier. We attached some of these items to those costs and to the years that we would request them. When I decided to move things back to give ourselves a planning year of 2018, I believed we were in walking the journey together. Apparently that's not the case. So for 2018, the game plan is to put together the design and engineering process so that we can present plans, much more concrete and much better construction cost estimates, so that we really truly can make some good plans moving forward, or direction moving forward, as it pertains to the 3 items for probable construction in 2019.
Okay, and I can definitely understand that. I find that as a council member challenging for me for informational, because we have $75,000 item. You say that we need to get this rolling so we can prove for grants, and I understand we have a grant policy. I don't know when are those going to come to committee for approval, because anything that has a major impact on staff time or expenditure, which this most certainly does, needs to have council approval, correct?
I would follow the grant procedure.
So
I understand there is one.
So that would be part of the discussion as well. When were you planning to come to committee and or council with those grant approvals,
Well, as we roll out as we roll out construction cost estimates, we'll have better design, we'll have better dollars to do that with. It would have to be in the April timeframe.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we at risk of losing any grants?
Well, there's $3 that are available to us currently. There's 2 NRDA funds that have been awarded, $200,000 for the aquatic habitat vegetation restoration project, and $220,000 that have been awarded towards the boardwalk, which that's still part of the request that's at the Park and Recreation Commission for tomorrow night. Then there's a $380,000 donation that is sitting in the Community Foundation, specifically targeted towards the activity building, which is also on the commission agenda for tomorrow night.
So approximately, just to refresh my memory, what's the total grant applications that we have out there currently?
Roughly 380 or 780,000.
Close to $1 million in grants we're trying to achieve for this property. So I just think the fact that we're seeking out these grants, that's a good thing. That's a good thing for this community. That's a good thing for this project. That's a good thing for the citizens of this community to be able to utilize funds that are available from some of the organizations and that Mike has outlined. One of them is the money that has been set aside from the cleanup, as I understand it, correct?
The NRDA funds.
I don't know what it's exactly
That's the NRDA
called,
funds.
But from the cleanup of the Little Lake Butamore. So I think these are all good questions. I think we have to, as Bill points out, many people point out to me many times, we have to make sure that we follow the policies, but I just don't want to jeopardize the ability for us to seek out these grants and get them for some, to capitalize on these dollars availability. So, Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. As council representative on Park and Rec, I want to at least jump in here. I know Arrowhead Park's been a tricky one because part of it's just a gigantic park with a lot of special needs and different pieces going on, not, the cap and public land and all those other kind of things, and water. And so it gets complicated. I do think, as Chairperson Bates suggested, an opportunity for us maybe all to catch up on this is great. And I think that'd be a great step, and we'll take that. At the same time, I think it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg issue here. It's like, what do we bring first? The idea without a lot of answers, or get some answers and then come in with some more information that we can really chew on, and of course that we can go with grants and all those other kind of things. Director King's one thing he does well is tries to project manage these things, understanding timelines, so we need to get these things moving so we can get to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. And if you miss one of these things just get pushed back a full year, and then maybe the dollars aren't there. So it's a matter of trying to work all these different pieces together and then trying to get the information. So part of it is, because we've asked many hard questions at the Park and Rec Commission level as well, but it's one of these. What I'm hoping to do is give Director King the opportunity to put together some of these pieces, and he needs some of these design pieces to do that, to come forward with us, maybe with a better overhaul look at what's going on, and then start putting these pieces together. It'd be great if we did the whole thing at once, but we can't. The budget's not going to allow that kind of thing to happen. So we're going to pick at these things, and it makes it more difficult, I think. But it is going off of conceptual plan, and maybe we need to understand that a little bit better, and that's fine. But there is that. There's been a lot of input on that. There's design people. There's a lot of different pieces going on here. I get that the council wants to be more involved, and I get that as well. I would hope that we'd allow some of these design pieces to go through, so we have something more to look at and something more to discuss when we get to that level. But it does take some dollars to lay out what this is going to look like, what's going to happen with some of these pieces. And we're really just talking about the kind of perimeter pieces here. And then there's just so much more to do, but I went on long enough here, but I'm hoping we allow this to move forward, and so we can do some really thoughtful conversation when we have some better information, and we'll need design work to do that.
The minutes you reflected, the mayor's left to use the restroom, and the council president's assumed control. Recognize Alderperson Bates.
Thank you, Council President Stevenson. Just to clarify, as Alderman Kuhn said, it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. In order to get the grant proposal going forward, you need to have some of these engineering plans to get the dollars to apply for these grants. So it's all meshed together. Is that correct?
That is correct, and as I was kind of just standing and reflecting back, one of the hard parts is, and this is nobody's fault, is we do our budgetary approval process in November of every year, and in order to start using, let's say, 2018 dollars, we really can't get out. We can't get out ahead of this thing. We're not going to put this on the agendas prior, to such times that it gets us into the correct fiscal year, and so you do kind of run into this panic mode right here in January and February when you're trying to meet a March or a May 1st deadline for grant applications. But I don't want to get necessarily hung up on that. I appreciate what Chris said. There are many pieces to the puzzle of Arrowhead Park. There's legal, there's descriptive, there's the exceptions letters, there's the even just down to the easements with the railroad and where we sit with that. And Jim's been just a blessing in working on that regards. And then as we look at Millview and how do we access into the park, Chris and Jerry's expertise have been just excellent along the way in guiding and helping this to provide some direction to this overall process and project. And so I appreciate the complexity of all this and sometimes the confusion that goes with that.
Alderman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Comparing this project, a couple times it's been compared to Washington Park and why we were able to get more detailed drawings or ideas of what was going on there. And then at the last Public Service and Safety meeting last week, I know Director Kaiser was asked why, if he thought that we should be able to have more firm numbers on this, and he mentioned that this is a different animal. We're dealing with a capped landfill with this. We're dealing with a railroad. We're dealing with a shoreline on a capped landfill. There's just a lot more to this that coming up with numbers needs the engineering that we're talking about tonight. So, we need to go forward with this and get this done so we know better how to plan for this.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, the motion is to approve the agreement for professional services from SCH preliminary design and opinion about cost of Millview Drive and Park Carriage Road, $75,000. I'm going to start a roll call. Go ahead.
Question for Alderman Bates. You had referenced the committee of the whole as conceptual. A couple of parts, maybe Director Keating can weigh in. What was your perception of a timeline on that? Would be to you, and then Director Keating, if that was done, what would be the downside if it was within the next week or two of deferring this to that meeting and/or bringing stuff about tomorrow's information as well? Because it all plays. You said there's a lot of pieces and parts. So, Alderman Bates, I guess the first part would be you. The second part would be Director Keating.
Alderman Bates.
I'm just asking. You had mentioned that conceptually. What was your?
And I said it would be a committee of the whole, so it would go to President Stevenson. So just whenever,
Well, I'm
as
saying
soon as we
timeline.
can, yeah.
Just for the record, any two aldermen can request a committee of the whole. It doesn't always have to be the council president. Our rule book.
No, but I was requesting it.
Yeah, so that's why I was wondering what would knowing as much as you do about the project, what would your timeline conceptually? Because I would like to, if I was going to make a motion to defer this to a committee of the whole, I would like to know what date would work soon rather than later, and what for Director Keating as well. So if a week or two would be what you were thinking, or not.
As soon as he could get I think he's got probably all his information. He just needs to put it into a presentation order. But it would be.
Director Keating, then if this was referred to a committee of the whole for discussion, to kind of put some more pieces together for us, if it was in the next week or two, that wouldn't present the most. I mean, I know it's not ideal, but we were kind of.
This, you tell me the date, I'll make sure it's ready to go. So, if we want to do it before the February 7th meeting that night, or if we want to do it before that, I'll make it happen.
I would come to any meeting at any time. And the council's, if we do it tomorrow, I'd be here to learn.
Well, let's not. Give me a week, please. Yeah. But
okay, well, that's just my opinion. So I'm going to make a motion to move this to a committee of the whole within the next 2 weeks to be determined upon by Director Keating and either Council President Stevenson or the mayor for discussion and putting this all together to move forward.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Paulno, seconded by Alderman Boyette. Schedule a committee of the whole meeting in regards to this. To defer the action on this tonight to a committee whole meeting.
Refer it to, yes, this motion. If I could, Mayor.
Sure.
I just, this is a large project. A lot of these projects we've done, not maybe to the scope of this. I just think it warrants more council input and weigh-in and discussion. I think we provide value as well on financing, on long-term planning, and sometimes I feel like when these come to us, we're pressed upon like, well, we'll figure it out down the road, and I think this should have been presented to us earlier. And I know all the parts and pieces aren't in place, but I just think with up to 5.8 million is approved now. There's been reference to another 20 million in the future years. I think it's, other communities might not do it, but I think I've always prided in the fact that we do meetings, we do ask a lot of questions as council. I think it provides value. That's this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Council President Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. At the committee level, I shared some concerns with involvement of the council to that point, so I certainly can understand Councilman Palmer's desire. I also, during the course of that discussion in that meeting, I agreed with the some of the issues that Alderperson Len Hillstrom just made regarding the complexity as we compare this project to Washington Park, which I did at that meeting. So I supported the action on this item. I would really support the action on the next item regarding the shoreline, because that's what I would consider less infrastructure driven. It's really something we're going to do regardless as to the scope and depth and breadth of development within the park itself. But the question for Director Kading, the $75,000 for 60% design, if approved tonight, would be available to the council when?
As far as like what information and when we bring forward, end of March, beginning of April. Again, got to stick with that, looking at those grants and that time frame.
Okay. So the motion as exists on the table now would, in theory, move the council action required timeline to, because
You just compressed it. We're just going to tell SEH, hey, you got 2 less weeks to work with, so get going.
All right, thank you.
You and Alderman Coons?
Thank you, Mayor. I understand the request, and I think it's important that we have a committee of the whole and we understand things more. I just don't see that. I don't see the advantage to holding this up. We've already borrowed the money. Unless this council is going to decide, no, we want to spend under $100,000 to do a new conceptual plan because we don't like the one that we got all the input on and everyone worked on and all these other pieces. And even though we don't even have jurisdiction on that, we want to do that. And then we're going to go back and, I mean, you'll blow up everything. Forget about March date. Forget about trying to do this in the next year or next 2. So, I mean, I don't know what we're thinking we're going to do here. We're going to redevelop this whole thing and start over, or we're going to let this process move forward so you can get some more information, the information we all so desperately want. Let's let this process go so we can get that information and we can start moving forward and we can start chewing on real information instead of conceptual things that really need a place to fit in this complex environment.
There's Alderman Bates.
Sorry, Mayor. So it's not 2 weeks, it would be 3 weeks out because it would be the February 7th that we could actually do the final vote on it? Or can we couple a special committee, special council meeting right after the committee of the whole to vote on it then? I mean, a week is sometimes...
If we're able to gather 9 for a committee of the whole, we should be able to gather 9 for a committee meeting. Sorry, council meeting.
Okay. So we're not going to wait until the February 7th.
Well, I don't know because I don't know the availability of all 9 of us.
Thank you.
I think Alderman Stevenson will start, if the motion passes, timeline.
Oh, could I?
Sure, go ahead.
This is a motion to amend the approval of $75,000.
Motion to, as I understand it, to defer action.
We had a motion to approve, which has been amended to defer or to.
No, not amended. The motion to refer to a committee, which takes precedent over the main motion of the Parliament.
It's not a motion to amend. It's the motion
to refer.
For action tonight and refer this to, correct?
Yep.
Alderman Palmer?
That is correct.
Okay. All righty. So the motion is to refer action on this and refer this to a committee of the whole meeting in a timeline within 2 weeks, but determined by the president of the council and myself. All in favor of that motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using roll call.
Aye.
Was that what it is?
Yep. in which case the motion to refer would fail if you don't. The motion.
Yeah. I think as long as we do this in the next 2 weeks, and as Marge pointed out, possibility of doing it that night, if, like Alderman Stevenson says, you get all 9 people there, we can take care of and dispose of it that night. So that's why I put it to have for the motion. Okay. All right. So that we'll move on from that to item number 4, Chairperson Bates.
Do we have any information back from the city attorney yet? He's still looking on the.
I'm ready. Maybe we should go through the rest of
We'll go through the numbers and we'll do that at the end. Go
Sounds
ahead.
good. Committee recommends council approve, I think I'm on the right one, agreement for professional services for Stantec for preliminary design and opinion of probable costs of the ecological restoration design and nearshore habitat enhancements for the amount of $32,165. And I would so move.
Second.
The motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? Alderman Paulno?
That motion was a mouthful, to say the least. So if Director Gidding can come up and explain, is that yours? I mean, just as where this would be, what we plan on getting, just basically.
I thought we deferred both of these actions, so I'm kind of.
That's why I was wondering how interlaced they are. I didn't.
But they're not, and let me even back up. There was 3 proposals originally, and they were broken up into sections on which we could bid them out. There was the boardwalk in the building, that's still at commission. There's the Millview Drive and the Carriage Road, that's excavation work, and then there's this aquatic work. What we're looking at doing is from the current bike and pedestrian pathway that is in the park to the lake, and then another 30 feet out along the shoreline, is installing aquatic habitat vegetation. That could look like plants, that could look like fish cribs. There's already fish sticks out there. Fish cribs would not work because it's not deep enough. But other structures that would enhance fish and wildlife opportunities along the shoreline. Again, the scope of that work would be from the current bike and pedestrian facility that's in the ground today, extending out into the water 30 yards from the shore.
So you would consider this, even if we weren't doing Arrowhead Park, you would probably come forward with something of nature?
As long as we had grant funding, and right now we've secured through the NRDA funds $200,000 to do this work. I'd like to also move forward with some other grant opportunities we think are available out there.
Oh, so, but
would I come forward and say, let's do this if we didn't have grant funds? I think this has got to be a partnership.
That's a grant fund.
It's a grant fundable opportunity.
Okay, because to Alderman Stevens' point, and correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, this is a separate item. You don't consider this connected to Arrowhead Park? Would you, if you?
Well, I certainly considered it connected.
Yeah.
But as you look at the 3 components that we were bringing forward, each one of those components are separate by activity or who might bid on these things, so that we don't want,
And it's not tied to the road construction, where the roads would go.
Correct.
I'm sorry, Todd, I didn't see your button. I would just add this. Whether we are doing Arrowhead Park or not, I was going to interject. I believe this would be a good idea for the fish habitat, for the ecological impact on that park. And so, in my opinion, I would do this either way. Alderman Stevenson?
Yeah, to sum up my position is if we never spent another dollar in Arrowhead Park for development or redevelopment, this enhances the investment we've already made, which is the trail itself. And so I don't know why we wouldn't do this. We can do this regardless if we spend $10 million on a building or a road, or this enhances the investment we already have.
Yeah, and the opportunity to do it with grant dollars even makes it more appeasable. Alderman Paulno.
Thank you. That clears it up for me, Stevenson. So going to the 32,165 dollars and cents wise, now was this Stantec? 'Cause I see the name a lot. And I was questioning that. Did we bid this work out, or are we doing this because we're familiar, comfortable with Stantec, which is got value, but we use them a lot. So how did that determination with this specific item? How was that made?
The original game plan was to funnel everything through SCH. We just got to the point where it made sense. Why have a middle person in there? Let's just have SCH and Stantec working parallel, who are and will continue to work parallel. But rather than for this part of the project, why pay these guys to pay these guys? Let's just pay them direct. So we requested a quote or an estimated quote from them.
But just one quote, you didn't?
That is correct. And again, it's comfortability with those guys.
Okay, I mean, when is the tipping point where and I'd asked this, Director Hayes, I know they've done some good work for us, I know in the years, I was wondering, when do we start thinking, okay, maybe we should get a couple quotes, because we do a lot of work with them, and we get, as human nature, we get such a comfort factor.
In my opinion, because Stantec has done so much work out at Arrowhead, and they have the working knowledge of not only what has happened, what may happen, and also who's involved. I think it's right there is just bringing those pieces of the puzzle and not have to recreate that is just an important part of it.
So with that being said, with this whole project, we'd never go anywhere else, logically?
I wouldn't, well, no, I'm not going to say that, but on this specific item, I would certainly recommend that you move forward with Stantec, because again, of their working knowledge of the site and their investment that they've already placed into the site.
That's fair. I just want to keep people honest. If they know we're not going to go anywhere else or never talk to anybody else, they might fluff up their number a little. It happens. I know people don't want to think it, but it does.
Totally agree with you. And we're currently within Park and Rec working with several different engineers and architectural firms. So I agree with you in that regards.
Thank you.
There's a motion and a second recommending approval of the agreement, professional services from Stantec for the restoration, ecological restoration design, and nearshore habitat enhancement. All in favor of that motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 7-1.
Committee recommends council approve Loop the Lake Amendment Number 1 for additional inspection and construction services from GRAFE in the amount of $7,400 NTE for labor and $900 in reimbursables for a total of $8,300 using contingency funds to cover the increased costs, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Or question, Alderman Lundrum.
I was just going to ask Director Kaiser if the amended minutes will be resubmitted and sent out the way they normally do, because my vote in committee was recorded incorrectly. And it's been changed, but I just want to know if it'll be sent out again.
Yeah, we can redistribute that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Alderman Paulno?
This question process-wise, I like transparency. That's great. But this, I would consider this like a change order. So I'm curious, would this normally have went through Board of Public Works? And if not, why?
Not a public works, it's a service contract.
So I'm clear on the Board of Public Works, service contracts never go through them? I thought.
The contracts that typically go through them are annual public works contracts and capital improvement type contracts.
So this is not considered a change order per se?
No. It's a contract change, but it's not a change order in the same concept as public works contract.
But the item that Director Keating had referenced conceptually for us, the over canopy, that is a change order. Is it structural?
Yeah, not a service. That would go through Board of Public Works because it's a change to a capital project, capital improvement project.
Capital improvement changes are Board of Public Works. This is a
service contract.
Service contract. The annual contract goes through Board of Public Works. This doesn't.
Annual.
This contract doesn't.
No, this contract goes through Public Service and Safety.
Why is that?
it's the jurisdiction of public service and safety. Public
Okay.
parking.
Fair enough. Just clarification.
Right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, vote aye. All opposed, vote no, using the roll. That motion also passes 7-1.
Committee recommends council approve the purchases required to implement the proposed installation of pedestrian flashing beacons and radar feedback signs for a total project cost of $72,284.12 with a CDBG revenue offset of $42,309.20, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Stevenson. Comments or comments or questions? Alderman Palmo?
Of these beacons, how many were brought forward by staff and how many were recommended by the mayor? Discussions with citizens.
Don't remember, but I strongly suggest I think all of them. So, but
Okay.
staff already had some in the pipeline.
Yeah, Winnicott and Henry was in the pipeline already. Bell and Bruce, that came up during our budget discussions with the mayor last fall, as did the Commercial and North Water intersection.
Okay.
Commercial and North Water has been an on and off request for a number of years from a variety of people.
Commercial Street and East North Water Street was brought to me by residents of the area.
Is there any, well, it's been asked, but is there any discussion with any of the neighboring businesses? We ain't going to get any unhappy customers that way. And any of these that you know of?
Winnicott, Henry, and Bruce and Bell, they have residential property on either side. North Commercial and North Water Street has office, well, you got the YMCA and a church and office and basically parking lot abutting.
The Island Shore is a business. They are very pleased. You know, takes some of their residents a while to get across the street. They're very pleased, to be honest. And I can tell you more than anecdotally that the residents around the area of Bruce Street and Ames Street and Collins Street that abut Bell Street, I've had numerous contacts from people who said they believe that these are a good idea.
Thank you.
So the mayor had a couple good ideas and Barry had a couple good ideas, and here we are. And the council, you know, during the budget process, I do want to thank you for approving these during the budget process, because I think the major east-west street corridors in the city, I think children and adults that cross these main thoroughfares are going to be better protected and safer. They do. Our police officers can't be everywhere. I have asked them to make these east-west corridors a little bit more of a priority because it's easy to get going on these east-west corridors. And so any calming devices that we can use for traffic or devices that we can utilize to slow traffic down a little bit, I think is a positive step. So, and I think Director Hayes did a good job of finding some federal funds to help negate what the taxpayers here have to pay for these, and made them really an affordable bargain for us to put up. So I want to thank the council for agreeing to it in the budget process, and the staff that, you know, agreed with some of my suggestions, and I think we're being very proactive in this regard. Alderman Boyette.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, these are the devices that are similar in nature to the ones on Winnicott, not the ones on South Commercial where you push the button and everything turns red and you have to wait and stop traffic. And
These are not like the signal up by Neenah Paper.
okay.
These are flashing beacons like Winnicott and Henry.
Like up by Washington Park?
Or Winnicott and Zemlock.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
All right. Thank you very much. There is a motion and a second to approve the installation of the pedestrian flashing beacons and radar feedback signs at different locations in the city. All in favor of that will vote aye. All opposed will vote no, using the roll call. That motion passes 8-0.
Committee recommends council approve awarding MSA Professional Services for Phase 1 of the Downtown Neenah Traffic Study Project in an amount not to exceed $29,650, and I would so move.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Lang. Discussion. Alderman Palmer.
Director Hayes, I got a question, a couple questions on this one. First one, you referenced, I think, an email or a memo, maybe it was the minutes of the meeting, that you thought the higher traffic flow due to the reconstruction of the 441 interchange would be a good thing because it would give us a preview of coming attractions, so to speak, with our downtown traffic flow. Correct me if I misrepresented what you said.
Right.
I guess my question is then, what? I mean, I understand that logic, but to me, you're doing a study based on, I think, not true data, would maybe give you false, not false, but it will give you information that's not based on current true patterns. So why wouldn't you consider that? But why wouldn't we wait 6 months or a year so we can get that project done since data?
I think you could. I think you can adjust the data accordingly. So you can take your counts, and I'll let Jerry add in. He's a traffic expert. But, you can take, as an example, counts that were done before 441 work began, and compare those counts to where we are today. I think if, based on, information we get from East Central Regional Planning Commission, that's where that estimate is coming from. So to answer your question, you could. It just puts us that much longer behind the time in terms of getting to that point.
Well, now this study, is it a recommendation? Have we ever done this study? If so, when?
Have we ever done this
We
study?
as the city of Neenah, have we done a study like this of our downtown traffic?
The last study I'm aware of was comprehensive study. I want to say it was late 60s, early 70s. It outlined a series of approaches, some of which were adopted and most which were rescinded over time piecemeal. So it's been a while.
And is this a recommended practice to have something like this done every 10 years or typically, or how?
Really, I don't know that it would. It kind of depends on what's going on with your downtown. We've had a fair bit of change in our downtown in a relatively short amount of time. And so that's really where I think that stepping back and looking at kind of the global picture is warranted. We've done, kind of spot things as we've seen issues, and tried to anticipate impacts on those spot things elsewhere in the area, but I think a good overall global look at things is needed.
I'm fully supportive of this concept because I think it's good to have the study. My concern is that we just haven't even shook through the new park, and that's still kind of getting its feet on the ground, and then we're doing this with the skewed data. So I would just hope that we do this, but wait till that irons itself
Sure.
out.
I'll touch on the data thing a little bit. Like Chris mentioned, you certainly can look back on pre-construction counts versus where we are now. It's another thing to start with more or less drawn down traffic, projected out 20 years, and anticipate the problems. Right now, we don't have to anticipate. We can go out there and see things. The question is, what do we do to address what we see? And so I thought this would be a good start to get us going there.
Thanks.
Alderman Coons?
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a great idea. I did not see in the minutes, and one thing I do look at is things will change a lot downtown. At least I hope they do. I think a lot of good things have happened, but the opportunity from new buildings and parking structures. So is this going to help us pinpoint maybe where to develop parking structures, those kinds of things? And are we going to lay out some kind of potential development plan where this will all change if all of a sudden, 2 or 3 new buildings go up? The place where the huge parking lot is now a building with, a structure. All those things would dramatically change the plan. So I look at it as a great opportunity to maybe lay out an overlay of our development plan, or this helping to advise that development plan. I'm not sure which direction that goes, but with just looking at what we have now, it would seem to be we'd miss out some opportunities.
I'm not sure what was that last comment? A missed opportunity?
We could potentially lose some opportunities if this could be a great opportunity for us to help us pinpoint, maybe from a traffic standpoint, where parking structures would best work from a circulation standpoint, or where a building should go in comparison to one spot or another due to traffic flows. And I mean, Alta is a great example. I mean, it totally changes our traffic patterns.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I don't know that Alta changed it, but the ramp did.
Well,
so the building, it's where the cars come from, going in the origin and destination of the vehicles. But I think we certainly are making some, I think, relatively accurate assumptions in terms of how we anticipate growth to occur in the future. And maybe a little bit to Alderman Paulnell's comment, what we're seeing now with this congestion is the wrong term. That's what some people use it. But what we're seeing is an indication of, to Jerry's point, we may be at a point today where we're seeing what traffic volumes could be 15 or 20 years from now. And we've talked about patterns that we see developing, and kind of curious as to why people choose. I came through downtown tonight because I often come through to downtown just to kind of see how things are going. And I was stopped at Doty Street, and as I was going down Wisconsin Avenue, so it took that many signals from Doty in Maine to finally get to Doty or to Wisconsin and Commercial. And I'm amazed that then people go straight through the intersection and make a left turn onto the Oak Street Bridge or the Wayne Bryant Bridge. And to me, I'm going, I don't know why you didn't come down Doty Street or Columbian and go over the Oak and detour all that traffic. But my point is, I think we see those patterns. We may have an ability to identify. First, this phase of the plan is to collect the data, identify most likely intersections or locations where we have issues. The second phase of the plan would then start to, which is not part of this program here, but would be to start to identify recommendations to deal with those areas of congestion. And the root of this proposal has come from concerns that we have heard from downtown businesses saying, our employees are having a hard time getting to and from work. So that's where this has started. But I think, to your point, Chris, we have a relatively predictable growth pattern in the downtown that I think we can address as we move forward with the study.
All right. There is a motion and a second to recommend council approval awarding MSA professional services for phase 1 of the downtown Neenah traffic study project in an amount not to exceed $29,650. All in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote no, using the roll call machine. That motion passes 8-0.
The committee recommends council approve the expenditure of up to $12,500 of community development block grant funds to assist the Neenah Menasha YMCA with the purchase and installation of a platform lift at the YMCA's westerly main entry, and I would so move.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Stevenson. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor of that motion, vote aye. All opposed, vote no, using the roll call machine, please. That motion passes 7-1.
And the only thing we have left is going back to the ordinance on UTVs.
Should be a motion to take off
You
the
wanna-
table.
You want to take that item off the table? Move to take that item off the table?
Motion to take off the table.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to take that item off table and take it up at this time. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Attorney Guideless.
And in response to Alderman Boyette, there is an exception in state law with regard to allowing for snow plowing purposes. I am plugged in.
That's fine, I believe you. I believe you, that's fine.
I would suggest, and I had it up on the screen, that's why
I just want to make sure that it's,
there is an exception in state law, but I would suggest adding language to the section 1, subparagraph A, that reads that the subject to the, unfortunately my screen has gone black. An amendment to the ordinance that would make an exception to the restriction for snow plowing purposes.
And then refer to the state statute?
Yes. It's 23.33 sub 4F is the section.
I will amend my motion to add that in. My second.
Patty, who seconded that? Do you remember? Please.
It is big.
We have to.
No, not.
What do you think? I'm sorry, so the second is not okay with amending that to reword it for,
I mean, there's an exception in state. I guess I'm questioning why we have to put it in our ordinance if it's already in state statute.
The way the state statute reads is that it's the snow plowing exception is permitted except as modified by local ordinance. So that's why we need to refer to it.
so if we want it to be legal here for snow plowing, even though it's a state statute, we have to modify it in our ordinance.
That's correct.
And our second is against that?
Make a motion to amend the motion, somebody else can second. Right?
That's correct.
I'll make a motion to amend the motion on the floor to add verbiage as recommended by the city attorney.
And I'll second that.
There you go.
All right, there's a motion and a second to amend the motion. Reference state statute. Correct, Todd?
The language that would be added to the end of the paragraph A would be except as permitted under Wisconsin state statutes 2333 sub 4F for snow removal purposes.
Does that sub that allow? I thought I read about it up to.
referencing 2333 system.
You can go up to 2 miles. Go ahead, Alderman Coons.
Maybe I'm missing something here, but this seems to be, I'm concerned with what we just did here. We had a motion that came through committee to deal with police vehicles on public.
Not just.
It goes beyond that.
All right, utility vehicles. That was what was discussed, that was brought up. And then here at council, we're trying to address, I'm going to say, individual alderperson's need for snow plowing sidewalks, and we're amending the motion to, it seems to me to be not the kind of procedure I would normally see in this council. If we do this, that means with any motion, we could take it in any direction. And it just seems to not go along with our whole setup of committees and discussions, and this concerns me.
Alderman Boyett?
Because I was addressed on that, I'd like to answer it. It's not just for one alderman. It just happens to personally affect my neighborhood, myself. I can only assume and guess that may affect other people in the community. And because we personally do it to help our neighbors who are elderly, handicapped, disabled, and can't get out to snowplow their driveways or sidewalks, we do it for free. So if it's going to hinder us being one block in the city, I can only imagine how other residents of the city would be hindered by this. And according to the attorney, if we don't address this in our ordinance, then we have an ordinance that's maybe we can enforce it with the police because of the way it's written, or maybe we can't. This way, we can totally enforce it because we've covered it and it's written properly, in my opinion.
Alderman Pono?
I wasn't going to say anything, but I think process is important. So a couple things. Anytime we make an amendment for redundancy to state statute, I think we're on pretty solid ground. Just reaffirms what the state has told us. Secondly, this council has always entertained healthy debate and or amendments on any item. We've discussed things at length, to say it lightly, so I hope every alderman always feels free to put because the way it works is you have to make a motion, you have to get a second, and then you got to get 4 other people to agree with you, make any changes. I would hate to have a where we just are a rubber stamp of a committee, because that's how we've never acted. Definitely motion.
Alderman Stevenson?
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. This is the quintessential example of a rather routine request from a department head looking to, or in essence, just make sure that the police department's using a vehicle that was, from their perspective, not allowed. So we quickly ran it, wrote an ordinance, and I thought it was kind of boilerplate, except we didn't confirm the fact that we another situation within our parks where we're already utilizing these vehicles. So we made that the attention of the city attorney, and he modified it and brought it back to the committee. And then it just so happens tonight that during the discussion of it, another example of a utilization occurred that may not have been fully vetted because it's a rather routine request. So I think anytime we recognize that the work that we're doing may not have been either fully vetted or fully understood, and someone brings it to the attention, we validate it with state statute, that's exactly what governing bodies do. May not be the prettiest example of what we do, but we're complete with it, and we address it. So let's vote and on to spending millions of dollars on other things like parks and stuff.
There's a motion, an amendment offered by Alderman Stevenson, seconded by Alderman Boyett. All in favor of the amendment will vote aye. All opposed will vote no. Using the roll call. That motion passes 9-0.
That completes my report.
The motion,
It doesn't.
the
Amended motion.
the amendment is carried. So now the motion as amended. All in favor of the motion? All in favor of the motion as amended? That was moved by Alderman Bates, and it was second, the original motion. Okay, there was a motion and a second. It's now as amended. All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye. Or we'll vote aye, all opposed will vote no using the roll call.
All right.
That motion also passes 8-0.
Now I'm done.
You can take the UTV home tonight now, Captain.
The Possum Street's on the way home. What are you doing?
Captain, put the plow down on your way. All right. Chairperson Bates, that concludes your report?
That concludes my report
That's
now.
the
Thank you.
longest public
Longest
works
report of my
report
life.
we've ever had. Thank you very much for your report. Moving on to the, there is no plan, no finance personnel committee meeting, correct? And regular plan commission, there is no report. Item number B under 10, Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of January 4th. The minutes can be found on the city website. Vice Chairman Coons or? Vice Chairman Coons.
Yep. Reporting out an amendment to the motion from December 11th, 2017, and I'm going to exclude omitted verbiage. Committee recommends the following amendment to the motion confirmed by the council on December 20th, 2017. Committee recommends the City of Neenah and the City of Menasha Common Councils approve ordering and purchasing a 2018 Pierce and Bell engine and related equipment to replace a 1997 Pierce Quantum for a cost not to exceed $559,240 and allow a contingency up to $580,000 of the approved $590,000 2018 CIP budget for any additional change order requests. Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue shall provide an informational update to the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee of any change orders that were approved after the vehicle was ordered. Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue will gain approval for expenditures from this committee and both common councils if the costs will exceed the budgeted amount of $580,000. And I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Kuhn,
Second.
seconded by Alderman Boyette. Alderman Bates?
I approve the clarification here, but the one change I did put as a friendly amendment was Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue will gain approval for expenditures from this committee as opposed to require or need approval. Here it looks like you're going to just get it because if it's over this expenditure, you're gaining it. That was the whole point of the other one is if it's over this, you need. And so that didn't get changed in this thing, and I'm concerned because that was in our minutes.
Victor Easker?
Well, what happened is the committee minutes needed to be amended. If I think it would be appropriate if you would like to amend this to the same thing. The reason we're reading it back is because that's what came out of committee. You changed the council version of, in other words, if I recall, it came out of committee with the word gain. You wanted to add the word need to gain or need approval.
Or require, yeah.
The reason we're coming back with this again is because each city had a different amount. Our city had on its minutes 590,000. The Menasha city had approved up to 580. And then looking back and reviewing the minutes, there were amended minutes that said it should be 580. So that's why we're voting on something the second time to assure that we're voting on the same thing Menasha did, which was the maximum is 580. Okay, that's the first thing we're doing. Then the second thing is the fire chief would need to get approval to go above 580 up to the 590, which is the actual budgeted amount. So that's sort of a roundabout way. That's where we're going. You're doing this again, but I think if you're concerned about that verbiage, you can do the same thing you did last time.
Is that all? I mean, I don't have to. Does it have to go back through all the
Would
iterations
that have to go
at that
back to
point?
Menasha?
Well,
then?
I think the the premise is the same. They pass gain, you can pass need. It's the same. I think
at the end of the day, I think getting what you're hoping.
Actually,
without
no, I wasn't going for the gallochins. I was saying anything above the limit, you have to come back to the committee.
That's what gain approval means.
That's what it says here, the last sentence.
Well, gain approval, does gain means you will be getting it, not you are asking for it? Or is that a different way that government verbiage is?
I don't think that's
If I say if you show up, you're going to gain more money, it's not a question of you will or not, you will gain it, as opposed to require. I would say request.
Well, there's always legislative intent also. Clearly, the legislative intent is after $580,000, they have to come back.
Right, intent is one thing, but I mean, if you could specifically say Neenah National Fire Rescue will require approval for expenditures from this committee and both common councils if the cost will exceed the budgeted amount of $580,000. That's all I'm saying. It just sounds more straightforward. So I'm going to make that friendly, or I'm going to make that motion to change that one word to require. Oops, sorry.
Alderman Bates, can you restate your motion?
To change the word in the last sentence from Neenah National Fire will gain approval to Neenah National Fire Rescue will require approval for expenditures.
Alderman Bates moves. Is there a second? There's a second by Alderman Boyette. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, further discussion? Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm always trying to read these exactly as they're worded because I don't have to do this twice like I just have to. Because Menasha makes a change, we make a change, and all of a sudden we don't have the same motion. So, and it is one, and I did talk to the city attorney and actually talked to me, and we have these gigantic motions. We need to find a simpler solution, whether it's resolutions or what have you. Particularly when you're requiring two different councils to pass the same verbiage. So I'm always very careful to report out exactly as it is, assuming Menasha's can do the same, which doesn't always happen. But
Alderman Paulno.
Yeah, this, as far as a vehicle expenditure, this has to be the craziest motion and/or communication I've ever seen since I've been on the council. Just say that first off, because in essence, we're talking about $10,000. Because as both councils have approved 590, you're basically talking $10,000. I don't know. I wasn't at the December 11th committee meeting for the Neenah National Rescue, and I apologize for that, but I don't remember where the 580 came from. I don't know of us ever doing this, because in essence, we're talking 10,000 below the budgeted amount. If it goes over that, you have to get approval. So, no, I don't know why because correct me wrong, Attorney Gillespie, anything above budgeted amount have to be a council 2/3 action anyway, correct? I mean, that's always the placeholder.
Right. If you are amending the budget.
Correct. So in essence, this is $10,000, and I don't even know where that came from. Why we would have that arbitrary amount? It wasn't. I asked at the committee. The second one, I don't remember where that discussion came from. Not really clear. So I won't be supporting this motion. I think our process is pretty clear. If they have to go over a certain budgeted amount, you got to get approval. Why do we have to have a second level?
Chief Clone, can I ask you? Are you of the opinion that if you spend over $580,000, you have to come back to both councils?
90.
580?
Yeah.
That's okay. Alderman Bates?
I'm just trying to clarify something. If we all say we understand it, if you just write it plain, you don't have to say, oh, we understood it that way, and go look back at the minutes. You understand it because it's written correctly.
Okay. Alderman Paulno?
If you talk clarification, the way it's worded, it says exceed the budgeted amount of 580. The budget amount was 590. I mean, if we're going to parcel words, I mean, the approved amount is 580 in committee. So, I mean, how much do we want to get into the parcel of the wordage? Thank you.
Alderman Stevenson.
The budget included $590,000 for the purchase of the vehicle. The committee has recommended, the Neenah Fire Rescue Finance Personnel Committee has approved $580,000 for the purchase of the vehicle. We received a quote for $559,240, and the intent of the motion beyond what Alno just said. The motion was crafted, evidently not, to allow the Neenah Fire Rescue Finance Personnel Committee to act in a capacity very similar to the Board of Public Works, which says we have a maximum amount. This is the amount that we were targeting to make. And if we need to make change orders, we're approved all the way with a contingency fund, all the way up to $580,000. We could have budgeted $1 million for the vehicle and said, you're only authorized to spend $580,000. So we have the budget amount of $590. We have an approved expenditure of $580,000, and we're expecting the project to come in at $559,240. If they go beyond that $559,240, they need to report back to the Neenah Fire Rescue of that change order. And if they exceed a request of $580,000, then they have to go to both councils for reappropriation of more funds.
All right. Thank you for your explanation. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second by Alderman Bates. All in favor of Alderman Bates' motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine.
On the word verbiage amendment, correct?
Yes.
This is on Alderman Bates's amendment. That motion fails 5 noes, 3 ayes. Brings us back to the original motion as stated by Alderman Coons. Is there any more discussion? Mm-hmm. Down further. That takes us back to the original motion that was offered by Alderman Coons. All in favor of that motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 2, committee recommends the City of Neenah and the City of Menasha Common Council approve the purchase of equipment to replace the SCBA system from 5 Alarm for a total cost not to exceed $219,489, with Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue's required match not to exceed $21,948.90. I so move.
Motion by Alderman Coons, seconded by Alderman Boyette. Any questions or discussions on this item? Alderman Palmer.
Just want to commend the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue for, at first glance, the next 3 or 4 motions might seem very nuanced and confusing. I think they're well thought out because they're like, if we can do this, let's utilize this portion of money. And each thing kind of builds off, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but each one builds off the last item. If they're able to win approval on this, we will do this. And it's very transparent. It's very straightforward. It is nuanced. I can't say it's totally straightforward, but I think it's really well thought out. So I applaud Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue for being this far-ranging and well thought out.
All right. Anyone else? All right. The motion is to approve the SCBA system at a cost not to exceed $219,489. All in favor, vote aye. All opposed, vote no. Using the roll call machine, please. That motion passes 8-0.
Number 3, the committee recommends the City of Neenah and the City of Menasha Common Council approve Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue to apply to FEMA to request the use of the $38,200 remaining funds for the grant award towards the purchase of a cascade system for Station 31 new RIT packs and additional spare SCBA cylinders, and I so move.
This motion by Alderman Kuhn, seconded by Alderman Paulno. Questions or discussion? I will say this, as mayor, the system of the cascade system for Station 31, this is the cylinder refilling station, which is the easiest layman's term. This is a machine to refill the cylinders. If you recall, this has been in the budget for 2 or 3 years, and the two mayors have both said it's one of those things we'd like to have, we'd want to have it, it would make their lives easier, but we said we just couldn't afford it, or it just didn't fit in the total package. So I believe for at least 2 years, maybe 3 years, we have said no, because the Neenah firefighters can fill up their ones at Station 32 across the street, the Menashik can fill them up at Station 35. But there is some transporting, and they got to go over, there's some time lapse, and it's a little bit of a, pain to do this. However, as Alderman Paulno points out, I think the ability for Neenah Menasha Fire to find funds outside our budget process to potentially do that, I applaud them for it. And if we can do this with those funds, I'm very supportive of it. If you have anything? Sure. I'm supportive of this action based upon the usage of these funds.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just to clarify what the Mayor said, at first I didn't want it to seem like we were hiding anything. I apologize if the cascade system wasn't initially discussed in the CIP process. It was written into the grant, and so when we got the grant, that part of the grant was not approved. So instead of the $300 and some $1,000 we were asking, we got $283. So the additional 75 was kind of kicked out, and that was what this part of the process was. So it was the RIT packs, the spare cylinders, and the cascade system. So just a little bit to clarify, in the cascade system, we're not buying a whole brand new system. We actually have the cabinet for it. We have all the cylinders that hold the bottles. We have all the components, the gauges. We have everything. This is just the compressor part, the compressor that creates the air to fill the bottles. So we're also looking to find a reconditioned compressor that will operate just as a new one. So probably talking with Shift Commander Schultz, who put this grant together, we're probably looking at a total of $8,000 to $10,000 for the compressor. So we're not looking at a brand new one that's $30,000 to $35,000. This is going to be around $8,000 to $10,000. So we did try and do our homework on that part too, and not just go out and buy a brand new one. We have all the parts to it except for the compressor. So, and we think that we can save some monies with the spare bottles. We are actually reducing the amount of spare bottles that we have now compared to the new ones that we'll get. And that way, from having less spare bottles, we're not going to have to get those hydro tested. So there's some cost in having 30 bottles hydro tested versus having 15 bottles hydro tested and being able to use and fill with this compressor system at Station 31, which is our training facility. So when firefighters are done training, they can just stop at Station 31, fill them up, head back to the station. Station 31 crews in the middle of the night or whenever, if we have a fire, they don't have to travel back up to this station to fill bottles to go back to Station 31. So we're not trying to get something new. We're trying to use parts and pieces that we've had, and we'll put something together. Just need the compressor parts. I just wanted to clarify that so everybody's on the same page.
Right. Well, thank you for your explanation, and I feel comfortable under this scenario, and I think, it is one of those things that you guys have done a nice job on packaging this. And I will say, in the event of back-to-back fires or back-to-back utilization of these, this will be nicer.
Thank you.
Comfortable. All right. There's a motion and a second on item number 3. All in favor of that will vote aye. All opposed will vote no using the roll call machine. That motion passes 8-0.
Number 4, committee recommends the City of Neenah and the City of Menasha Common Council authorizing Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue to purchase a cascade system for Station 31 RIT packs and additional SCBA spare cylinders. The purchase would not be made until confirmation is received from FEMA on the use of remaining grant funds. If granted, the use of the remaining $38,210 fund, the cost would not exceed $9,790. If FEMA does not grant the use of the $38,210 remaining funds, the cost is not to exceed $48,000. I so move.
Motion by Alderman Coons.
Second.
Second by Alderman Paulno. Questions or discussion? So just break this down for in case people at home are watching or whatever, because this would seem very similar to the previous motion. How is it different, and why is it necessary to do this, Chief?
I'll try to make this clear. Originally, so the CIP that we asked for the additional equipment was somewhere around $75,000. So by going in with the city of Oshkosh and purchasing the same SCBA's, we were able to save that 22%. And so those extra items that we figured were going to be about $75,000 are now $48,000. So the $9,000 comes in, that is the match. So it's the $48,000, which we now know that if FEMA doesn't approve the second round of the grant, it'll be 48. So the difference, the 9,000, is with the 38,000 that we're asking for approval. So the 48,000 minus the 38,210 is the 9,000, which is what would be the match. That the 9,000 is the required match that we would have to send FEMA, just as the 21,000 is the match from the overall 219 that was approved in the second item.
Alderman Paulno?
I was just going to clarify for the council that we have budgeted monies that we'd still be below the budgeted amount overall. So we're in fairly rock solid shape.
All right, thank you. All in favor of that motion will vote aye. All opposed will vote no, using the roll call machine, please. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 5, committee recommends the City of Neenah and the City of Menasha Common Councils authorize Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue to remove old equipment from service and sell this equipment once the new SCBA system is placed into service. I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Coons, seconded by Alderman Boyette. Any further discussion? All in favor will vote aye. All opposed will vote no, using the roll call machine. That motion passes 8-0.
That's the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. Item C is the Board of Public Works meeting of January 9, 2018. Vice Chair Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Those minutes can be found on the city website. There's one informational item on the agenda for this evening. The board approved pay request number 2, contract PR 01-17, Loop the Lake Project to Pfeiffer Brothers Construction in the amount of $335,187.74. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Community Development Authority update. Any update, Director Hayes?
Mayor, I have nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. Sustainable Neenah Committee, Alderman Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick report. We did not meet this last Wednesday. We're in the process of changing from the second Wednesday to, I believe it's the third Monday. So next meeting is January 22nd, third or fourth. But trying to change to Mondays. We've had conflicts with the Wednesdays, and that's my
I appreciate that. Some of the members, when I was going to reappoint them, they just said that Wednesday did not work out for them. So glad to hear that you found a suitable time and day. With regards to the library board, Alderman Erickson, I'm sure would have had a report. I know the library board met today, but he's not here, so we will put that on the next agenda. Okay. Any petitions? There are no petitions that I'm aware of. Council directives. Anyone have any council directives? Unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Alderman Paulno.
Yeah, I had a reminder, Director Kaiser, what is the status on the sanitary sewer rate study and/or bringing that committee?
I had discussion with the consultant last week. We exchanged a few emails on things. I'm expecting to see something in my hands within the next 2 weeks. I was hoping for beginning of the month, but you need a little more time with the calculator that they're building into the part of the scope of services on the work. The goal is to have a calculator that's easy to use so that it will be used. And they were using kind of as the template for it, one that was created back in the mid-90s by a different consultant. And in the course of their work on it, found that it was extremely data intensive and rather difficult to use. So they were trying to streamline that a bit for us before they bring the report in.
And did you discuss, as we mentioned before, a debt service component long-term?
That was something that we had discussed very, very early on with them.
Okay.
I'll have to touch base with her again, just see where that part of it is.
I remember in committee that was a component of discussion and that was direction given.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, thank you for that question. Any other unfinished business? Item number 14, under new business. I just asked that the discussion on closed captioning requirements for media airing on the Green Bay Public Television Station be put on. In mid-December, we were made aware, we received a letter from the city of Green Bay, who evidently has jurisdiction over the public access channel. They made us aware that it's their belief that closed captioning is a requirement to air these public broadcasts by municipalities. So they have essentially told the municipalities that they may not air your broadcast without closed captioning. Clerk Sturm received something, an email. I received something, we forwarded it on to Attorney Godleski. We've asked, I asked Attorney Godleski to look at this. We want to be compliant with the ADA and that, but what was kind of weird about this, they gave us less than 30 days to comply. And so Jim has looked at it. He can talk about what he's learned. He believes that this station is exempt from the ADA requirements because of the amount of volume dollars that the station generates, that there's an exemption in the law for this type of public broadcasting. Clerk Sturm did some checking. We believe we have found that it would cost $1 per minute to provide closed captioning on our broadcast. So tonight would have been about $145 to add closed captioning, in addition to the amount that we pay UW Fox Valley, correct, for the person who does it and that. So closed captioning would add about $1 a minute. Jim is waiting to hear back from the city attorney regarding his questioning of whether this is a requirement or not from the ADA statutes. We checked the emails as late as 4 o'clock today, Jim and I. But we will have an answer very shortly. This is something we didn't budget for. We're going to ask them for a little bit more time. Pardon?
We did ask.
We asked them for a little bit more time. We haven't heard back from them yet, but if not, we may have to find the dollars available to add closed captioning to our broadcast. Do you have any Anything you'd like to add?
Yes, what I found in researching the rules is that the FCC rules, which has jurisdiction over the broadcast PEG channels, cable, requires closed captioning, but exempts channels that have less than $3 million in receipts. PEG channel that Green Bay operates does not advertise, has no revenues that come forward to the channel. As a result, I sent an email to the city attorney, which is the official from Green Bay that notified us of the requirement, indicating that I believe that the station was exempt from the closed captioning requirements, and asked that they give us time to be able to get it into our budget to be able to account for that appropriately. I have not heard back from Attorney Chavez, Green Bay yet.
So the fact that we believe we may be exempt or the station may be exempt, that still may not be a reason to not do it. I mean, there are people out there who utilize closed captioning. I will tell you this, I run into a lot of people who tell me that they watch the broadcast. I run into a lot of elderly. I think the Highlands must have a huge cable TV contingent that watches the broadcast. So we may do it. Todd and I put pen to paper before, and if you average 2 hours a night or 2 hours a meeting, there's about 24 meetings a year. There's a little bit of additional cost for UW Fox. You're probably looking at less than $3,500 or so to do the yearly closed captioning for our broadcast. So we're going to try and get an answer to this as soon as possible. We're hoping that Green Bay will run this like they normally do. If they don't, if we find out that they don't, Joni is going to make sure that she puts something on Facebook and that, telling the folks that usually watch for it that it'll be on our website. Correct, Patty? On our website. And they'll be able to watch it on our website in the interim here, but hopefully we get an answer very quick and we can get this figured out. And if we have to bring it to committee or something, we will. I'll keep Todd informed, but we need to, this literally came the middle of December, just before Christmas, and they sure just didn't give us much time to deal with this. So, Alderman Boyette?
Thank you. So I'm glad to hear that streamlining it is possibility online, because we know everybody's doing that. But primarily I wanted to speak because I know there are devices out there that you simply just plug in and it does it for you. Do we have to use some kind of equipment by the Green Bay or by the people that film for us? Or because that's another option, and I'm sure that equipment's going to be a lot cheaper than this yearly fee.
According to the folks at the UW Fox, this is the way they recommend doing it, so that it matches the characteristics of the PEG channel in Green Bay. So this is based on their recommendation.
Do we know how many people have cable, and I mean, an idea? Because I know a lot of people that don't, and they watch it online. So how many people are we talking about accommodating for this fee?
Don't know the answer. I find that out, but
I asked Patty that yesterday. I asked Patty that exact question yesterday. And I don't know if they can give us an answer or not.
Right.
But we're going to try and find that answer.
We can find out the subscribers, but how many people actually watch the channel?
That's a little harder.
They might know.
Right. I mean, I don't know.
We're going to ask.
It just seems to me that I know for a fact there are devices that do this work for you. And
I know 4 years ago the Nielsen ratings went up on our channel. All right. Alderman Bates.
Thank you. I don't see any problem with going forward with something like this. I think it might be a nice addition, because sometimes it's hard to find out or figure out what we're saying. What I would like to ask you to do is, can you get example of someone else who uses this service, and so I could take a look at it? Because sometimes they hire people that have no idea what the verbiage that we use. If you've ever seen a football game with what they write up there on the scoreboard, it's like, who is this person? And and names are especially bad, things like that. So I'd like to see what they do before we actually hire them.
Okay. Alderman Paulno?
Yeah, I just want conceptually, we talk about legality. I think it's good to look at. I just think flat out we should do this. I think if there's one person that can see our meeting that couldn't otherwise, so I would request that this definitely be put on a Public Service and Safety Committee. I just think it's a no-brainer. We wouldn't ask, how many people have a wheelchair? Should we put in a ramp? It wouldn't even come up. So look at this as the same way. I would request that Chairman Bates definitely put this on a future agenda item. Then the mayor and the city attorney can get the information for.
All right, we'll, Alderman Bates, so look at that, and
Or is it finance, because it's a contract?
we may hopefully have the information faster, and we may be able to do it. And I don't want it to lag because people do watch it. Alderman Lundrum?
Thank you, Mayor. As somebody who does, I actually watch it, I download it and watch it on a fairly regular basis. And I guess I would ask if we had a way to do a test run on it because, you know, a lot of times I can't hear what our microphone is supposed to pick up because we're not speaking into the microphone correctly. So I see Patty nodding. And so a lot of times we miss, or the people watching, and you can download it yourself and listen to yourself. And we lose a lot of information. And to try to transcribe that, if I can't understand it, and I don't know what that person said because they've moved away, like, hear it anymore, just like that, I don't know how they're going to transcribe it.
No, that's a good point, but
It would be called
the bottom line
unintelligible.
is Green Bay believes that this is a requirement. They run the channel. There are some people like Bill and, I have others who say that this is probably a service that we should offer our residents regardless if it's required or not. So I just wish they would have gave us a little bit more time, but we're going to get going on it, okay? Lastly,
Patty, use your mic. So yes, moving forward, we should all use our mics, make sure that the public speakers use the mics, so that if we go to this, we won't have any issues with that. But she is right, if you don't speak directly into, even the mayor, when he turns to look at Todd or to Jim, he turns away and he's not speaking into his mic, and you should, if anyone hasn't listened to one, I dare you to just go out and listen to one. It's not pretty.
No.
Sometimes it's better than others, but it's not very well done.
But it's civil. It's always civil. So Friday, I'll be attending the Urban Alliance meeting in Madison. We're members of the Urban Alliance, and that quarterly meeting is Friday in Madison. So with that, that's all the announcements I have. Is there anyone else with any announcements?
Move to adjourn.
Oh, Jane?
Sorry.
I just had one quick announcement for the council members. I don't think that the public would see this beforehand, but tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at the library, a history of the Neenah Fire Department. It's very interesting to see where we have come. So you're all invited.
That sounds like I bet you it's going to be packed. I bet you.
Second on the adjournment.
There's a motion by Alderman Stevenson, seconded by Alderman Paulno on adjournment. Is there all in favor of adjournment? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Podcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.